It's floofy! That was a stupid thing to do. G'day cocktail lovers, I hope you've been keeping well. Hope you're ready for another Milk Punch Monday! Because that's what's happening now. This one is a little different to many of the Milk Punch Mondays. I am going to be doing a milk clarification, but it won't be a cocktail. It's going to be a syrup. Now, I have made a video about this particular clarified syrup I made before, and I feel like I didn't actually capture the process properly in that, so I'm going to do it again, essentially. And this is a casual in the kitchen thing rather than making cocktails, which is why I'm wearing my casual cocktail shirt. And I have a bunch of these. Then we get to have a bit of fun because this process will actually take several days. So you'll get to see different shirts as I record segments of this on different days. So that's a bit of fun. The process isn't difficult as such. It just takes a while. It's time consuming. You have to let things happen. What we are essentially doing is a slightly elaborate oleosaccharum that will then be milk clarified. And if you don't know what oleosaccharum is, that literally translates as oil sugar, and you make that by covering a citrus with sugar. And then there's a natural chemical reaction with the sugar. It leaches moisture if it can, and with citrus peel, it gets citrus oil. What we are doing, we are peeling some citrus. On hand, I have lemon and blood orange. So we peel our citrus and weigh it because you need to know the weight of the components in this to get the best result. So when we've got our citrus, we want to cover it in twice its weight in sugar. So I had 150 grams worth of peel, so I'm covering it in 300 grams of sugar. And that's it for phase one, essentially. You can, if you like, do a little bit of muddling on this. It's not actually necessary, but it can kickstart the whole thing. What you have to do now is wait 12 to 24 hours for the sugar to do its magic work. I don't actually know the right term. I was just making weird noises about what the sugar does to the peel. But it draws the oil out and turns into a syrup. This is it now. I did it a couple of hours ago, and the sugar has started to be wet, essentially, but hasn't turned into a syrup. I'll come back, like I said, in 12 to 24 hours, and this will be a syrup, and we'll do the next stage. Here I am, during the daylight, in another flamboyant cocktail shirt. It's just about 24 hours, slightly less than 24 hours since I put the sugar on the peel, and it's turned into a syrup. It's completely liquid. Well, I think the sugar hasn't completely dissolved. It's still a bit granular. Now, from what I hear, some people use this form of oleosaccharum to flavour drinks. For me, that's a little bit rich, and as I said, also the sugar's not completely dissolved. I think you'd have to warm it up to dissolve the sugar. What I do, if I'm just making the syrup, is I'll add water, and it'll be the same volume as the peel. So, in this case, there was 150 grams peel and 300 grams of sugar. I would add 150 mils of water. This, however, is a special one. So instead of water, I am going to add juice in that volume. It's going to be mostly lemon juice, but I'm going to add some blood orange juice as well. So it's going to be 2/3 lemon juice, 100 mils, 1/3 blood orange juice, 50 mils. We give that a good mix and we let it strain for a while because we want all that wonderful juice in there. Now, this form would be great to use as like a cordial or a sugar syrup, but I am actually taking this one step further. After I think as much as drain through is going to drain through, I'm going to milk clarify it. Day 3, the final day, shirt 3. Variety is the spice of life. Speaking of variety, now you know what my hair looks like when I wash it and don't put any product in. It's floofy! That was a stupid thing to do. When you get to the milk clarification stage with this syrup, it's different to what you might expect. If you've watched any of my videos on milk clarifying cocktails, it's rather important to know that doing a milk clarification of this syrup is very different. The original recipe that I based this off said after you do that, do the milk in there, leave it to curdle and separate for at least 6 hours. and I've recently posted that waiting for cocktails to curdle is rubbish, doesn't count. This isn't a cocktail. I'm assuming it's the sugar content that makes it so different, but it goes weird, and you do have to leave it for hours. And when you do, it separates out and looks weird. It's not like normal milk curds on the top. It's this weird goopy stuff. Now this has behaved slightly different to me when I've made this, because I've made this several times. One time, that stuff was so thick, instead of using a fine filter like a paper coffee filter or a cheesecloth, I could use a sieve, and it was so thick it sat and didn't go through the sieve, and I ran it through a couple times, and that clarified the syrup. This time running it through a sieve got the thickest stuff out, but a lot of it went straight through. So then I went on to do my usual clarification, pour it through a coffee filter. You need to be really patient for this. This took over 6 hours to go through, and a couple of times I decided, all right, this is now clogged up. It's just so thick, nothing's going through, not even one drop a minute. So I would pour the goop into a new filter, and that would leave a lot of the really thick goop behind, and it would slowly drip through again. I did that multiple times. Don't squeeze. You might be tempted to try and squeeze it through, then you'll just get really cloudy stuff coming through. So you need to be patient, but after 6 hours, I got this. When I say, all these things, you've got to wait 6 hours, 12 hours, 6 hours, it's not difficult, it's time consuming, and you don't have to be doing anything with this time. Just let it go. This is bright red, even though it's clarified. That's just from a quite small amount of blood orange juice. Now, if I didn't want it to be red, I wouldn't have put blood orange juice in. I would have just used, say, lemon and lime. But I wanted it red, so it's red. And now I have this syrup. Now, what can I do with it? Well, obviously, cocktails as a sweetener. I can straight up use it as a sugar syrup substitute. Where it really comes into its own is when you have a cocktail that calls for both citrus and sugar. This little beauty is both in one. It's got citrus oils, citrus juice, and sugar. So rather than say, if a recipe said 15 mils of citrus juice, 15 mils of sugar, just put 30 mils of this in, you're done. It also goes particularly well in the tropical style drinks. The ones that's like multiple rums and multiple fruit juices, and there'll be different sweeteners in different recipes. Some will say grenadine, some will say sugar syrup, some will say orgeat. Make that the sweetener in a drink that's got a lot of fruit and a lot of rums in it. Absolutely fantastic. And incidentally, through exhaustive scientific testing, I can tell you this is also great on pancakes, waffles, ice cream, and French toast. If you like seeing how to make this, I hope you'll come back and join me for other adventures, mostly about cocktails, occasionally about syrups. So if you're not already subscribed to the channel, it'd be great if you did. Hit the notification bell so you know when I upload. Give you a thumbs up to say you liked it so YouTube thinks people love me. I guess the last thing to say about syrup, people might be interested, how long does it last? Well, how brave are you? Refrigerated, it's going to last at least 2 weeks. It does have a lot of sugar in it. Sugar's a natural preservative, but there's an upper limit on that. So I tend to make in relatively small batches. This is a slightly larger batch than I would usually make. It was just the amount of peel I had. But it'll last at least 2 weeks. Use it as a sweetener, use it on desserts. I'm not saying I'm this much of an animal, but maybe, keep it in the fridge until you see stuff growing on it. That's Angry's tip for food safety. If it starts growing fungus, maybe it's done. No fungus? Why not? Go for it. Please don't do anything unsafe that I suggest in a frivolous manner, okay? I A, don't want to be legally responsible. B, I don't want you to get sick. But it'll last for a while, and it'll kind of show you if it's not. If you have any doubts, tip it out. It's only sugar and citrus juice and time. It's not that expensive, so just throw it out. But it's going to last at least a couple of weeks. I know I've kept it for longer than that and not suffered ill effects that I can tell. So it's worth doing, even though it's a bit involved and a bit laborious. It's not actually that difficult. So I hope you give it a go, and I hope you look after yourself and look after the people around you. And until next time, sweet.